Funding for this program is provided by Annenberg CPD to advance excellent teaching.
How can the study of psychology help you get a better night's sleep, improve the quality of space flight for astronauts, improve our judicial system, and help resolve conflicts? Taking psychology out of the laboratory and applying it to the world around us is next on Discovering Psychology. The practical applications of psychology reach far beyond the therapist's couch. Using psychology to better manage our lives and improve the human condition has long been a vital aspect of psychological science. In this program, we will take you to a number of real-world situations in which psychological research helps us to master what we do and improve how we live in a complex modern world. Psychologists apply their knowledge to many practical areas of life. Among them, education, human factors, law, promotion of peace, and health. One important aspect of health psychology is sleep, where we spend a third of our life. Some of the early research in sleep and dreaming began in the 1950s with the work of psychologist Rosalind Cartwright. A pioneer in her field, Dr. Cartwright explores sleep disorders and how dreams act as regulators for our emotions. Her research continues to open the door for others to study the psychology of sleep, like Professor James Moss, who spends many waking hours educating the public about sleep deprivation.
Being tired during the day is an abnormal state, not a normal state. 56% of shift workers fall asleep on the job at least once a week. These are people flying us to Europe. The first 747 commercial captain I asked, "Do you ever get drowsy in the cockpit?" He said, "It is not unusual for me to fall asleep in the cockpit and wake up 20 minutes later, only to find the other two crew members totally asleep."
Adults need a solid 8 hours of sleep a night. High school and college students need more than 9 hours, but typically get 6 or less.
One of my favorite things to talk about in Psych 101 is what happens when you pull an all-nighter. Well, if you take a normally rested student and give that student what we call a functional MRI, magnetic resonance imagery, while they're doing, let's say, a math problem, the parietal lobe, which is the home or the repository of all of our math skills, is firing away like mad in the cerebral cortex, and the student is getting the problem right. Have that student pull an all-nighter and work on the same problem, and you will be lucky to find any activity going on in the brain whatsoever.
Whether it's academic work or athletics, sleep enables you to retain newly acquired information by helping to lay down a physical record of it in your brain. Sleep helps control heart functions, regulates hormonal activity, and is critical for the formation of long-term memory.
Because it is primarily during the first 2 hours and the last 2 hours of at least an 8-hour night that all of this memory formation goes from short-term to long-term. So if you're getting less than 8 hours of sleep, you are operating on half a battery. Literally, you're stupid.
We live in a 24-hour global society and run our lives on a 24/7 schedule, where rest is a luxury few people think they can afford. No wonder we don't recognize how sleepy we are. At any time, anyone can come under the spell of drowsiness.
Taxpayers' money being used to finance the fraudulent.
Sleep analysis is a scientific approach psychologists often use to better understand the debilitating effects of sleep disorders, such as apnea.
What is sleep apnea? It's heavy snoring with repetitive pauses in breathing. I'm going to emulate it, but I can't possibly put out the volume that wakes an entire household up when a person has sleep apnea. Sounds like this. And then no breath. 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and a gasping for air. And this happens up to 600 times a night, caused primarily by an obstruction in the upper airway passage. Now, anybody who has had 600 apneic episodes a night is very sleepy the next day, because you have to wake up for a microsecond in order to begin breathing. And so you're unaware that you've been up to 600 times a night. But during the next day, you are tired all day long.
Apnea frequently leads to problems such as memory loss, impotence, high blood pressure, and most importantly, chronic sleep deprivation. Whether from a sleep disorder or a hectic lifestyle, lack of sleep is a serious health hazard. Psychologists continue to study the negative effects of sleep deprivation and use their research to help change public awareness about the critical importance of getting a good night's rest. Psychologists are not just concerned about how we live here on Earth. One of the greatest human achievements of our time has been the exploration of outer space. While physics, engineering, and computer science have contributed to sending men and women safely into space, increasingly, psychology is entering the picture. After all, it is humans, in all their psychological complexity, who are living in this brave new world. Think for a moment what it would be like to exist in a weightless environment. Up is down, down is up. There is no frame of reference, yet you are repeatedly required to perform demanding, often highly stressful tasks.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Psychologically and physiologically, you are challenged by this unique environment.
Houston, how did it go? Over. Open up the LRL.
Psychologist Mal Cohen of NASA studies the effects of microgravity environments on human interaction, which is part of human factors research in psychology.
In the absence of gravity, blood flows in a different way than it does on Earth, and the shift of blood to the upper part of the body gives a facial edema or puffiness to the face. This can mask your ability to understand if a person is smiling or frowning or what the expression on his face really means, because the face is always puffy. Another problem in space is that you and I are seeing one another and communicating with your forehead up and your chin down. In space, gravity no longer anchors us, and so we can confront one another in multiple orientations. This makes it much more difficult for you to read the facial